Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast, and we are a man down. I'll let you make your mind up why. There are rumours doing the rounds. Don't listen to those rumours. They are just rumours. But make your own mind up. Yes, we are still soldiering on with the football podcast. I believe we are only a man down for a week. So, there we go. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave reviews. Share with your mates. If you like football and your friends like football and you listen to the podcast, slide it their way. See if they like it. See if they want to subscribe. Anyway, let's get going. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
A good lady, she does not lie. Recording is indeed in progress. Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another enthralling instalment of the CookieCast football podcast. It has dawned on me over the last few weeks that I have been very rude and not introduced my co-hosts. You may notice, the YouTube watchers, that one of our co-hosts is conspicuous by his absence. And I don't think it's because I haven't introduced him on the previous podcast and that he's quit in anger. So if he's listening to this, apologies, Stuart. I will strive to be a better man for the weeks that you're back. Well, joining me this week is the person that the podcast is named after, Mr. Andrew Cook. How are you, sir?
Well, I am well. I'm a little bit apprehensive of having to fill such mighty shoes this week. But, Stu, I'm going to try and do you proud. I've been practicing my whole accent. It sounds a lot like this.
Sounds uncannily like a Yorkshire / base Manchester accent. But yeah, we'll come round to that. And as we said, obviously conspicuous by his absence, Mr. Stuart Woodmansey not on the podcast this week. But we do have Nottingham Forest's finest, Matthew Moore.
Hello.
How are you, Matthew?
I'm alright, how are you?
Very well, thank you, very well. Let's jump into it then. Obviously, the transfer window has, I believe, 7 days left to run. Yes, I've just checked my calendar in the bottom corner of this particular screen, and it does say 24th of August, so we have 7 days left for the transfer window to run. So for the next 7 days, there will be plenty of ins and outs. Who knows? Maybe Nottingham Forest will sign another 11 players. But we'll get to that later on. So, from a Middlesbrough perspective, just the one in, no outs this week. But they have signed Rodrigo Muniz, a striker on loan from Fulham for the season. That name should be fairly familiar with the podcast listeners if they were listening from last season, as it is a player that Middlesbrough were linked with before he joined Fulham in last season's August transfer window. He's been a bit surreptitious on his Twitter account, because every time that something comes up in his feed that's linked to Middlesbrough or something like that, he normally puts the old sideways looking eyes emoji, or the winking emoji, or the thumbs up emoji and stuff like that. So it sounds like he's got his Twitter shithousing head firmly logged in. But he's joined on a season-long loan. As of time of recording, this one isn't confirmed, but is highly rumoured. They've been after a left-sided centre-back all throughout the window. And apparently they've now got their man, MacLeod, as potentially joining today from Brighton and Hove Albion for between £2 and £2.5 million. He's a left-footed centre-back, and obviously will play on that left side of the three. That is balance that Chris Wilder wants. Wants a left-footer on the left-hand side, right foot on the right-hand side, and, I don't know, a guy who's ambidextrous in the middle, or just basically sits there and doesn't move. He's got to be the anchor. I did say anchor, just for those listening on the audio version. But yeah, that one's not over the line yet, but apparently is due to be completed at some point this week. So that's Matt Clark. Matt, turn over to you. I believe just the one in permanent. There is some others rumoured, I believe, at Forest, but just one in.
So the one in is, and depending on who you believe is kind of thing. So finally, after a saga that's gone on since possibly the playoff semi-finals, playoff final kind of thing, finally Forest signed Morgan Gibbs-White for an initial 25 million, and with a possible 17.5 million in add-ons. Apparently 10 million of that is easy. I presume it's 10 million if we stay in the Premier League, possibly. I think with rumours, the other ones are as far-fetched as some of Mr. Cook's predictions for Forest. I think it required like European qualifications, top 4 finishes, that type of thing. I think.
Given Mr. Cook's prediction, could it be argued that he was the one doing the transfer negotiation?
Right there, Wolves, just get that one in for us, yeah, kind of thing. I think it's one of them ones where he's a player that I hadn't seen very much. Add it to the list of players that I've definitely called names on this podcast in the recent past during the playoff run when emotions were high, and then you have to turn around and change your mind about him. He made his debut on Saturday that we'll discuss in a bit and look lively. I think he will be a player. We kind of discussed about how the squad will bed in and add in so many players to that kind of thing. I think it seems to have settled in quite nicely. But I think he will be one that will go straight into the team. He's a player that's been worked with Steve Cooper at England under-17 level. He worked with him at Swansea 2 seasons ago, and obviously is somebody that Steve Cooper rates, and I presume as they kind of discussed the structure of Forest recruitment is something that's agreed across ownership and the recruitment structure within the club with like the CEO and scouts and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot. If you look at the headline figure, it seems like it's a lot of money up front, 25 million, and I think it's this kind of thing of, kind of go on a kind of side rant here, Sky put on the most that Forest are going to pay for each player as in their running total. So I think it totted up at 143 million the other day. But when realistically, if you take away a lot of the add-ons, so Nico Williams got add-ons in his deal, Mangala has got add-ons in his deal, I think Dennis has got add-ons in his deal, obviously this Morgan Gibbs-White has got add-ons in his. So there's a lot of players who Forest have added to the team have got add-ons. So the headline amount looks high, the number of players is also high, but I think the recruitment was needed, and the amount that they've actually paid up front now is probably closer to the 100 million mark kind of thing. So before people kind of start, someone had said that Forest was skewing the market in the Premier League. That's wonderful as Chelsea go and bid 60 million for a player who's played half a season at Everton.
Something like 30 games total, I think it was, that he's played.
So between Chelsea paying that and Man United paying nearly 70 million for a 29-year-old, 30-year-old? All right, yeah, we're skewing the market.
Yeah, it's always the people in glass houses throwing stones, though, isn't it? So it's the football transfer market at the end of the day. It's been overinflated for a long time, so it's not surprising that Forest are just the latest in a long line of teams that are having to pay over the odds for players who are not proven. But I think it's a good bit of business in that he's young enough that he has resale value if things don't go right for him. But his pace alone is frightening. He is one of the quickest players I think I've ever seen.
There was a bit of skill when he came on at the weekend, and he just megged two guys, and then got to the byline and put in a really kind of dangerous cross that led to a chance. And I think you need that little bit of, we saw it. Not talking about any of the three clubs that we support, but you saw that this weekend with Man City against Newcastle, and Saint Maximin had Man City on just absolutely scared stiff, weren't they, kind of thing, and it was quite impressive to see, to be honest.
Pretty much. Certainly agree with that. And not an out of sorts, as he's a free agent, but I did see today that apparently Lewis Grabban has agreed his next club. Mm-hmm. Apparently he's agreed to join Saudi Arabian side Al Ahly. Didn't say for how long, just that he was joining them on the agreed terms on a deal. So, fair enough. He's obviously decided he's had enough of English football.
It was one of them ones where it was rumoured repeatedly, kind of thing. You'd get to, it's been a good 2 or 3 Christmases where it's like, Grabs might be on the way. This Saudi club have offered to buy him. All right. And then obviously when Lamucci went and left Forest and then got a job out there, it was like, Grabs might be on the way. And you're like, all right, kind of thing. And I think, 36 years old? We've just seen Joe Lolly go to the Australian League. We discussed that last week. And he's a lot younger. This one, go and make a bit of money, because he will have made a lot of money playing football at championship level. But if you can go and make a little bit more money in Saudi Arabia or somewhere else, then fair enough. He's a good player. If we could have had one of them seasons where he scored quite a lot of goals, and we had a bit more of a team to back it up, then maybe we could have been promoted earlier. But it just, always kind of either petered out at the wrong time or just wasn't quite on the right side, to kind of thing. But kind of glad that we went up, glad that he's kind of moved on to another team.
Absolutely, and he's not here this week to give us the whole lowdown. So I suppose I'll pick up the slack and do it for him. So Hull have signed 2 players this week. Ryan Woods, a central midfielder, has signed for an undisclosed fee from Birmingham. And they've also signed another central midfielder on a season-long loan from Arsenal with an option to buy at the end of it. I'm obviously going to get this wrong, as this name is incredibly hard to pronounce, but I believe it's Salah Eddin Oulad Mhand, or Mhand. Andy was looking at me there as if he wanted to have a go at pronouncing this one.
No, because the moment you were like, this one's going to be a tough one to pronounce, I was like, oh, this should be fun. If you're thinking it's going to be tough, obviously I'll be looking out for a shirt with that name on.
Well, this is the thing, because obviously it'll be the latest in a long line of which name does he have put on the back of his shirt, because he's got 5 to choose from, or 4 to choose from. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it, but
not being kind of thingy, but the Mahand thing is that, that's ripe for comedy, that, isn't it? But we'll leave it for now.
Well, and he's in Yorkshire, and his name's got our lad in it, basically. So he's going to be a hit with the locals, isn't he? Let's be honest. Not a signing as such, but I don't know if this was covered in last week's podcast, but I'll give it anyway. Centre-back Jacob Greaves has signed a new 4-year contract with the club, amid interest and apparently bids from Middlesbrough. But he signed a new 4-year deal, so in theory he's tied himself down at the club for the next 4 years. 2 outs from the club this week. Goalkeeper David Robson has joined Crawley Town on a loan deal until January. I believe he's just a youngster, so wasn't really anywhere near the first team picture in the first place. So it just gives him a chance to go out and get some first team experience. And podcast favourite from a couple of seasons ago, striker Malik Wilkes has joined Sheffield Wednesday for an undisclosed fee. I think he found it a lot easier in League One than he did in in the Championship. Couldn't really make the step up, sadly, like the rest of the team could. So he's dropped back down to League One with Sheffield Wednesday, and who knows? Hopefully it'll pan out for him, and he'll be able to get a few more goals. Just to wrap up the sort of the news section, a little bit of sad news from a Middlesbrough perspective, in that a Borough legend David Armstrong passed away on Sunday, the 25th of August, aged 67. He is one of Middlesbrough's all-time leading appearance makers for the club, having played 431 times. He's also the club's record holder for the most consecutive appearances in a row, having played 305 games between March 1973 to August of 1980. Just goes to show that the players these days who moan that they can't play 2 games in a week need to look at something like that and just get on with it, basically. But yeah, 305 games in a row for 7 years. He scored 77 goals in total before leaving the club to join Southampton in 1981. He had a couple of years at Southampton, and then he finished his career at Bournemouth. But yeah, a real sort of club legend there that's passed away at quite a young age. So, sad news there. So, that covers the transfers. It opens us up for the predictions from last week. So I believe that after week 3's predictions, Matt took the week's win with 4 points from the 4 games. Obviously, there's 5 games to go through this week, so we'll dive straight in with the first game of the week, which was Everton versus Nottingham Forest. Mr. Moore, how did this one finish?
So it finished 1-1. So a 1-1 draw. Forest took the lead late on 82 minutes. A very nice finish from Brennan Johnson. Ryan Yates had a shot from outside of the box, saved by England's Jordan Pickford, and Brennan Johnson was there to follow it up and slot it past him. Looked like Forest were going to take 3 points to get us down to 6 down, 6 to go. But I think it was that moment where you kind of realise, we've still got a little bit to learn, because it was a real kind of noddy goal that they conceded, because it was just a Pickford clearance straight up the middle. Everybody kind of looked towards each other, and Damari Gray ran through on goal and slotted it past Dean Henderson in the Forest net after 88 minutes. So a 1-1 draw. I think if you would have said at the start of the game, you've taken a point away from that, which is probably a team that's going to be around where you are at the end of the season, you'd be happy with it. But scoring a goal at 82 minutes to take the lead and conceding the goal that they did, it kind of leaves you a little bit kind of disappointed that you kind of dropped 2 points as opposed to gained 1. It's a bit daft. Some of the things I've seen online, a bit daft about blaming Joe Worrell and saying that he's not up to the Premier League and stuff like that, which is really silly considering what a stalwart he was last season. 1-1 draw. Great.
So, from a predictions perspective, both Matt and Andy had gone for a pair of 1-0 Nottingham Forest wins, with Johnson to score the goal. That close, lads. That close to getting the full boat of everything correct. Myself and Stu, however, both went for 1-1 draws. I went for Rondon to score the goal for Everton. Stu went for Lingard to score the goal for Forest, so we were both wrong there. However, I had Johnson to score for Forest, and Stu had Gray to score for Everton. So, from game 1 of week 4, Matt and Andy, 1 point each. Not a bad start. Myself and Stu were taking 3 delicious, tasty points into the second game of the week. But before we discuss the second game of the week, we are just going to take a momentary pause and then come straight back to you. So hold on to your seats, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, we won't be gone for long. And the second game of Week 4's predictions, we dive straight back in for Reading versus Middlesbrough. Now this one was, by all accounts, meant to be Middlesbrough's first win of the season. Nice and easy. Didn't turn out that way, sadly. Apparently this is, according to BBC Radio Tees, this was quite comfortably Middlesbrough's worst performance of the season, which was even confirmed by the manager himself later on in the radio breakdown, and ended with Reading winning 1-0. The goal was scored by Tyrese Forner, who just so happens to be on loan at the club from Nottingham Forest. Yeah, not really a great deal to say about this one. It looked as if Middlesbrough just weren't at the races for the entirety of the game. I watched, they had the highlights on the ITV show, and not a great deal came about. It was a pretty poor show. They never really got going. Just all in all, a bad day at the races, really. And from a predictions perspective, not really great, as nobody had Reading to score a goal, let alone win the game. We had Stu and Andy both went for 1-0 Middlesbrough wins, with McGree and Fours getting the goals. And both me and Matt were ultra optimistic, terrible, and went for 3-0 away wins. I had Akpom to get the first and Fours to get 2, whereas Matt had Fours, Jones, and McNair to score. Obviously, that wasn't the case, and sadly, Middlesbrough get no points, and neither do any of the predictors for this week. We move on to the third game of the week, where West Bromwich Albion took on Hull City. Now this one is sort of a derby in the fact that obviously we've got Mr. Woodmansey, who again isn't here to give us his perspective on the game, but my better half, shall we say, is from a family of baggy supporters, so we could argue that there's a little bit of needle in this one for between Amy and Stu. There were no texts going back and forth on this one, however, so the game itself actually was a bit of a one-sided one and finished 5-2 in favour of West Bromwich Albion. Quite brutal from a Hull perspective. The 5 goal scorers for West Brom were Elder, Swift, Furlong, Grant, and O'Shea. Whereas the 2 goals for Hull were scored by Estupinian. Some notes that Hull Stu did give me about the game was that it took a while to get started, and obviously Hull were pretty much out of the game before it became a contest. The one bright spark, though, that came from the game was that there's a partnership building between Tete and Estupinian, and the fact that Tete was the assist maker for both of the Estupinian goals, you'd imagine those two will be the preferred partnership up front, whilst Elias Syed Manesh is sidelined with his hamstring injury. From a predictions perspective, Andy was the optimist on this one and went for a 1-0 Hull win. He did have Estupinian to score, though, so doesn't get any points for the prediction, but does get a point for the goal scorer. Matt had a 1-1 draw with Tufan to score the goal for Hull and Grant to score the goal for West Brom, so does get a point there for the goal scorer, but no points for the score. Stu had a 1-0 West Brom win with Grant to score the goal, so I get 2 points there. And I had a 2-0 West Brom win with Wallace, who didn't score, and Grant, who did. So I too get 2 points. So, after 3 games of the week, Matt and Andy both tied on 2 points for the week, whereas myself and Stu with 5 points. We move on to the final game of the week from a predictions perspective, and it was Cup football, where we had Grimsby Town taking on Nottingham Forest. Matt, do you want to give us a little breakdown on how this one went?
Yeah, it's a much changed Forest side. I don't think there was many, if any, of the side that played at the weekend in the team again. In the team, some youngsters got to make their debut. I think one lad came on who was 16 to play. Some of the kind of fringe players that have joined in the summer, so Biacone kind of played. Coyote played. Emmanuel Dennis made his debut. So a lot of those kind of fringe players that hadn't got a run out kind of got to play. And speaking of which, so Forest won 3-0. So the scoring was opened by Ryan Yates, a little kind of chip in by Emmanuel Dennis, and I loved it on Twitter. Quote, "Great finish." He shinned it into the top corner. I mean, let's not kind of call it anything else. He shinned it into the top corner.
I thought it was just to sort of dive in. Sorry to sort of interrupt, but it was quite funny because I can't remember who was doing the coverage on Sky Sports, but they said something along the lines of, Yates has scored the goal. He looks as though he can't quite believe that he scored it, and I don't know if it's because he hit it with his left foot, but he's obviously right-footed, or the other way around, or something like that. Watching it back, I was like, there's absolutely no chance he meant to do that, and he's got so lucky with it. But then again, that's Ryan Yates for you, so carry on.
Most of the time, when somebody shins a shot like that, it ends up in the crowd, kind of thing, or hitting the corner flag or something like that, kind of thing. It was not a, but it went in, and then Sam Sturridge popped up, and I think we've never kind of we've talked about what a good finisher he is before on the podcast, and 2 really nice finishes, either side of half time, just to kind of put the tie to bed, so then Forest could take some players off, put again some more youngsters on to give them a run out. Just to kind of see where they're at. I think Sam Sturridge is one of them ones where either he'll be at Forest for a while and be that player that pops in and perhaps gets a goal here and there, or come January we'll probably sell him for 5-6 million to a club in the Championship that's trying to get up, because he'll go and score goals for them, kind of thing. But good finishes against the League 2 side. Could potential banana skin, if you like that kind of cliches, but into the next round of the Cup.
Absolutely. I think with Surridge, there's always a possibility, obviously, because the transfer window is still open, that someone will panic and they might either stick in a cheeky loan offer for him, or just say, "Listen, here's 5 million. Test the waters, see if they're willing to sell."
I think at the moment, with the fact we've only got, including him, 3 strikers at the club, I don't think he'll go anywhere at the moment. I think you noticed last night Lyle Taylor wasn't on the bench, which is kind of it's hinting at something loan / leaving the club kind of thing. I think there's an element with his contract where it's a little bit too much for some clubs, kind of thing, and he's got a similar kicker to Harry Arter, I think, as well. So I think his contract might have gone up a year and increased in money, which makes it difficult to move him on. But obviously he's possibly leaving the club in the next few days, so I don't think they'll let Surridge go. And I think there's more of a kind of Surridge might be able to become something where with Lyle Taylor, I think everyone's pretty gone. He wasn't great in the Championship, so he's not going to be any better in the Premier League. He's probably found his level. Whereas Sam Surridge might be that. He's not as good as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but he might be that player that comes on late in a game that can kind of get you an extra goal. Or he is, I would call him a finisher, an old school finisher. He'll finish a chance. He doesn't need like a massive amount of chances. I think he's scored 9 goals for Forest on 26 chances, and 20 of those have gone on target, which I think is that, when you say 20 shots on target, that then you take into account rebounds, so creating extra chances for people. So and that's not starting games as well. I think that to look at 26 games for Forest, how many of those were actual where he actually started?
Yeah.
So
it's that sort of thing where you look at his like goals per minute played. It's probably like quite healthy and stuff like that. I think as well with him, he's that striker who offers something a little bit different because he's a different sort of build to how Brennan Johnson is, or Wanye is, or Emmanuel Dennis is. So he's got a bit more, like, he's a bit taller, maybe a bit more sort of like to his game where he can play it into feet, or maybe just knock it long and see if he can hold it up and bring someone else into play. Like we said, who knows? Give it a week. If he's still there, they might be tempted to send him out on loan with a recall like clause and stuff like that. But from the predictions perspective, we all had a Nottingham Forest win. Stu, Matt, and Andy all had 2-0 Forest wins, so we're that close again to getting a bang-on result. Unfortunately, Andy had Lingard and Taylor to score. Now, there was a Taylor in the squad, but it was not the Taylor we had in mind. So that's 0 points there from a score perspective, but a point for the correct result. So well done, Andy. Mr. Moore had 2-0 Forest with Taylor again to score. Didn't even make the squad. But he did have Surridge to score. So 2 points there for Mr. Moore. Stu, again, 0-2. That had Taylor and Maiton to score. I think Maiton played, but obviously did not score. I, on the other hand, went for a 1-3 with Maguire Drew to score for Grimsby. Incorrect. Emmanuel Dennis to get off the mark for Forest. That didn't happen. But I did have Sam Surridge to score twice. So 2 points there, plus the 1 point for the result. So, from a week's perspective, over the course of the 4 games, Mr. Cook, 3 points. Perfectly acceptable. Mr. Moore, you got yourself 4 points for the week. Stu, 6 points for the week. Taking the win, I did manage to get 8 points this week, so big juicy points on offer. I can see Matt there just thinking, probably should get some sort of independent adjudicator to check these ones to make sure he's not just making shit up. But I can assure you, I'm not that sort of bloke. I'm not one to twist the stats to fit my own agenda, as it was. But yes, there we go. Another week's predictions another week's results in the bag, which moves on to week 5's predictions. We start with the man who is absent and therefore cannot go last. Or can he, if he's already supplied his predictions? We have Hull City taking on the team in the Championship that's played less games than anybody else in Coventry City, as their home stadium is appalling. I'll give Stu's prediction last, but I will jump in here with my prediction. I've gone for a slender 1-0 home win with Tete to score the goal. I get the feeling I may hear a similar sort of prediction from the man I'm going to come to next. So, Mr. Cook, what is your prediction?
When you say similar, just do the ditto marks, because that is exact. See, I've been waiting. I've been biding my time. I didn't want to go in right on the first game by predicting Titties to score. So, I've been waiting week in, week out. It's like, it's too soon. But I thought this week was my week. Yes, I have also gone with 1-0 and Tete.
Is it too much to try and make a joke that the support that Tete brings is just great and stuff like that? I'm sure there's one in there. Matt, before we get ourselves in trouble, what's your prediction for this one?
Well, I was going to say, you just can't be diving straight in on the Tetes. You've got it. I have gone, because I've been looking and Coventry have conceded quite a lot of goals. So I've gone for a 3-1 Hull win.
Ooh. Coventry City doing the sterling work of keeping Middlesbrough off the bottom of the Championship table. Good work, lads. Well done. Keep it up. Your 3 goal scorers for Hull.
I've gone Tufan.
Toof.
Tete.
Tete.
And Estepina. I've not predicted it yet, so I better get on that.
And your goal scorer for Coventry?
Gordon.
Now, I don't know what those matters for the book, but is it double D?
Yeah.
I didn't even mean that. That is superbly done, inadvertently. We'll move on. So, the Hull fan has gone for a 2-1 Hull City win with, no surprise, Tete to score. So if he doesn't score this weekend, we're all SOL. And Estupinian with Yukaresh to get the goal for Coventry City. Be interesting to see if he's still a Coventry City player within a week's time. The next game we have my team Middlesbrough taking on Swansea City of the Championship. Mr. Woodmansey has again given me his prediction for this, so he's going to dive straight in with a 1-0 Middlesbrough win with Mowat to score the goal. Matt?
Again, with my research, I've been seeing that Swansea have been conceding a lot of goals as well. So this one is goal fest. A 3-2 Middlesbrough win.
Do you know what? I'll take it any way it comes. If it goes in off someone's tetes, for example. So, your goal scorers, please.
I've gone Crooks, Fours, and hopefully at some point he's going to hop up off the mark. Hop. What is it?
Hoppy. Matthew Hoppy. And your Swansea goal scorers?
Cullen and Obafemi.
Mr. Cook.
I've gone very simply with a 1-0 Borough win. I was pleased to hear Matt picking Crooks to score, because I put Crooks down to score, but then I had this weird feeling that I was like, somebody mentioned at some point something had happened, like he'd gone somewhere or he was injured or something.
He had an illness, so he missed the Sheffield United game, and he's been basically eased back into the squad.
There we go.
But you are going Crooks to score, yeah?
I am, yes.
Very nice. I agree with two of you in that I've gone for a slender 1-0 Middlesbrough win. This is probably going to be scrappy as anything and just needs to be one of those games where they just get it done, get the win, no matter how hard it is to get it. Just get the win, get off the mark from a wins perspective, and just get some points on the board, please. So I've gone for a 1-0 win with Fours to score the goal. Move on to Sunday's games, and we have Premier League action once again. It takes place at the City Ground, and Nottingham Forest take on Jed Spence's Tottenham Hotspur. Now, whether they are Jed Spence's Tottenham Hotspur for much longer is to be seen, as if reports are to be believed that he's already kicked up a bit of a stink that he's not in the first team plan. Listen, far be it for me to say that he's, a problem player. He never did sort of that stuff at Middlesbrough. He gave a lovely, heartfelt thank you to the club when he. Oh no, sorry. We'll move on. I have gone for a 2-0 Tottenham Hotspur win. I think Spurs will just be a little bit too strong for Forest in this one. I've gone for Kane and Son to score the goals. Stu has gone for the exact same scoreline with the exact same goal scorers, 0-2, Kane and Son. Andy?
2-1 to Forest.
Ooh! Well, looking for him to continue the decent home form. Your goal scorers?
Johnson and Lingard for Forest, and Kane for the Spuds.
The second Forest game of the week will really test Andy Cook's mettle. How much he backs the Forest boys. Let's just say that. Go on, Matt. Tell us how this one's going to go down.
I've gone for a 2-1 Spurs win. I think, we've kind of discussed the defensive kind of issues. I think there's just sometimes you've got to look at it and think maybe this team's just too good with Forest's current, players not bedded in, standard and stuff like that. So I've gone for Morgan Gibbs-White to get his first goal for Forest. I think he'll start this week. And just a little ditto for the Spurs scorers, Kane and Son for me.
I mean, we could be wrong. Son started slow this season. He's nowhere near the player that he was last year. So fingers crossed. Maybe he's just off for another week and he doesn't do what he did last season. But
I think the one thing's going to be is how intimidating is the ground going to be for some of these players, because they don't play in a ground like Forest ground very often, kind of thing. And I'm going to get digs in here. It could go south very quickly, but I think at the moment you go to Forest, it's loud. The crowd are into it. They're very enthusiastic now. If Spurs score early, it could go south quickly. But I would say the only ground that's equivalent to Forest is possibly Newcastle's ground when it's that noisy. And there could be a lot of players, particularly in the Spurs team, who are intimidated by the amount of noise. It's a small ground, it's very noisy. And the reason why I'm going to get digs in here is Newcastle hasn't been like that until this season. And any other small ground that's in the league, they haven't got enough fans there to make enough noise. So, Brighton, Bournemouth, Fulham. We could list more as we go along, but I'm not that petty. But I might just drop them in as the weeks go by. Everton. I think there's the possibility of the intimidation factor. I just think it could be sniffed out, kind of dampened down very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think, let's be honest, with the greatest of respect, Forest, like you said, try and win your own games, but I think even the most ardent, people in the Forest sort of camp will be thinking, yeah, that's probably what we want to be doing. There's certain home games we're unlikely to win, and
you just don't want to get stuffed.
Exactly, that's it. Keep it tight. Don't, anything if you can keep it to 2, I'd say that's an acceptable sort of scoreline. Anyway, we'll move on and we'll come back to potential scores that could get silly in the next game, but we'll come to that in a minute. We move back to Championship football and we have QPR versus Hull City. Again, I've got Mr. Woodmansey's predictions here, so I'll give that last. I'll dive in here where I've gone for a 1-1 draw with Elias Chair to score for QPR and Oscar Estupinian to score for Hull. Mr. Cook.
I like what you've got there. I like it a lot. Just take out that QPR goal and we're on the same page. It also says me having to say Estupinian.
I see.
Wait.
You see, you've only gone and shafted yourself there. 1-0 Estupinian. Mr. Moore.
I like what you put down, but instead of Chair, I've gone for Willock.
1 apiece. Willock An Estepinian?
Yes.
Oh my God! Not a Tete in sight. This is terrible.
Not on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, well, there is that. Although it is in London, so probably more prevalent than you think. Anyway, the resident Hull City fan has gone for a 2-0 QPR win.
Oh.
Dear me. Doesn't back his boys in London, clearly. He's gone for goals from Elias Chair and Lyndon Dykes. We move to the next midweek game, which is actually live on Sky, and it is Watford taking on Middlesbrough. Stuart's gone for a 1-1 draw with Manage to score for Watford and Watmore to score for the Borough. Mr. Moore.
I've also gone for a 1-1 draw.
Okay.
I've also gone for Manage. Because, and with that one, I was like, I genuinely don't know who he is, and could he possibly be one of the ones that are going to get sold the next week?
This is the thing. It's a case when it comes to Watford, it's a case of they're basically having a fire sale on anyone that plays in the front third. So who knows who's going to be there this time next week?
Exactly. I was like, you could put Sarr down, but he might be at Villa, he might be at Everton, he might be at Forest. Was he Pedro as well?
Yeah, he's been linked with Newcastle and other places as well. Yeah. Your Middlesbrough goal scorer? Akpom. Still nursing an injury, so it could be a couple of weeks, but he might be fit for that. I think there's an outside chance that he could make that one. Mr. Cook?
Yeah. Watford, 0. Middlesbrough, 2.
We've given him an extra one.
I'm all
that
over
boat and pushed it out.
Watmore.
Scorers? Watmore.
And Fours.
You boys are all way too optimistic. I don't think Borough have got a decent result in Watford in insert number of years here. I honestly cannot remember the last time they got a positive result against Watford. Ever since they've been down in the Championship, never do well there. Always seem to get beat. I think that will continue. I've got them down for a 2-0 Watford win with everyone's favourite Manage, who no one knows anything about. And there's been a scourge of Middlesbrough in the past when he used to play for Newcastle. Pretty sure it's not the same player, but I have gone for Asprilla. If it's Tino, he's doing well, as I'm pretty sure he's in his 50s now, so probably not the same guy. We close out the week with, as I said before, the tester for Mr. Andrew Cook's mettle when it comes to Nottingham Forest games, with Manchester City, reigning, defending Premier League champions, taking on Nottingham Forest. Because I want to hear it more than anything else, Andy, who have you got in your 1-0 Forest away win to score?
You're close.
Done.
Now, let me give you the method for the madness. The method is, this is a great way for Forest to put a stamp on the Premier League and say, we're here to stay. So, 1-all.
You goal scorer for Man City?
Silver.
I don't actually know. I think they have just signed him, but I don't know if he's in the squad or if he's like development.
Bernardo. No, he got Bernardo Silva.
Oh, Bernardo Silva. I thought it was like a different guy. Bernardo Silva. Sorry.
I was going to say, I checked. Did you?
Oh, no, I'm getting confused because the guy that just signed's taken David Silva's old number. That's why I'm getting confused. You goal scorer for Forest?
Johnson, of course. He's going to put one on the Man City boys.
The new Lewis 60-goal a season grabber is Brennan.
I need to get
70-goal a season.
I need to get
Johnson.
my 1 point at the end of the season, don't I? So I'm willing it into existence.
Mr. Woodmansey has gone for a 4-0 Manchester City win, with Haaland to get 2, Foden and De Bruyne to score. I'm not as optimistic as Stu, as I've gone for a 5-0 Manchester City win, with Haaland to get a hat-trick, Alvarez and Mahrez to score. Dare I ask, Mr. Moore, how many have you got Forest to win by?
19.
What a blend, as I have no friends.
19.
Unoptimistic, just terrible thing. I've gone for Man City 4-0.
Scorers?
I've gone for Haaland to get 2.
Yep.
De Bruyne.
De Bruyne.
And is it Gundogan?
Gundogan.
It's one of them ones. Yeah, I mean, it's what you got. Worrell, who's not fast, McKenna, who's not particularly fast, and Steve Cook, not fast.
Cook, who looks like he's had the hardest paper round in existence, yet he's somehow only 31 or something like that.
Haaland just rampaging around the thing. The only thing I can possibly see it doing anything is if McKenna just hard bodies him early on and he just don't fancy it. That's the only thing I can see is if McKenna can hard body him and get away with it early on, then maybe you can slow him down. But then you've got the other 10 players that they've got.
Yeah, the one thing I would say that's potentially going in Forest's favour, is that apparently Pep's come out this week and said that Haaland plays every game because they've got one game a week at the minute. When they move to start playing Champions League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup games like that, when they're going to have 3 games a week or 2 games a week, he's not going to be starting every week.
Yeah, so, he's not playing in the Barcelona Man City friendly today.
Yeah, so I've just had a text about that, which I'm yet to read in full, but it does sound that it's incredibly strange. But yeah, so the one thing that might go in Forest's favour is the infamous Pep rotation policy, where they bring in, the likes of a Grealish, who isn't as good as he thinks he is. Might work in their favour, but listen, they're Man City. They're still going to have players that are incredibly good.
They did a Forest with a budget that's like 10 times Forest's budget. So everyone can complain about Forest spending 100 million in the summer, but Man City.
The weird thing about City is the fact that I'm pretty sure they bought Haaland for 60 or whatever it was, Phillips for 40 plus. Who else did they sign that they dropped a bit of money on? But they sold Sterling for like 40, 50, 60, something like that. And who was the other big one they sold? Zinchenko and Jesus. So they've probably got the best part of 100 and some million for those players. So their balance sheets, I think their balance sheet's positive. So
this season. This season is positive.
This one season. But alas, that brings us to the end of this week's podcast. Thank you very much to Mr. Cook.
Thank you,
Mr. Muller, or as his avatar says, Mr. 4 down, 8 to go. Will they get any of those 8 this week? I'm not sure, but strange things have happened.
3 of them off Man City,
obviously. But yes, thank you, gents, for joining me again. Obviously, Mr. Woodmansey will probably be back next week once he's managed to obtain some wireless connection. But we'll see. He may have just rage quit in anger. I don't know. But if he listens back to this week's and hears that I've been introducing you, thanking you, been generally just nice, he might just be like, I'm not having this, and just full on you just see him just like tortures, like he just unfollows me, unfollows the Cookie Cast account on Twitter, does a Kyler Murray, and just burns all his bridges.
That's it.
But we'll see. But yes, I've said it again. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for another week of football-based nonsense, and we'll see you in about 7 days' time. Thank you very much. Good night.
Right.
So there you go. What do you think to that? Even though we were a man down, it's fine. I think we managed. I think we coped. I think so. Before you go, do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave any reviews you want to leave. Generally get the podcast out and around and, put it in people's pockets. Things like that. You can also check out our website, thecookiecast.com. Over there we've got social media links and an email button. You can get in touch with us. Let us know who your favourite team is. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.